Hi and welcome. I'm Midnight Truth, and it's so nice to have you here tonight, wherever you are right now. Whether you're in bed, lie on the couch, or just looking for a quiet moment, I want you to know this time is for you. Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, feel the weight of the day start to fade. Let your mind settle, let your body relax, and let yourself simply be. There's no rush, no pressure, just this calm, quiet moment. If you like, you can close your eyes and imagine yourself in a peaceful place. Maybe it's a cozy room with soft, warm lighting. Or maybe it's under a starry sky, with a gentle breeze brushing against you. Wherever you feel safe and calm, let yourself drift there. I know many of you use these stories to fall asleep. So before we begin, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time is it there? Tonight's story is gentle and soothing, perfect to carry you into a deep, restful sleep. So settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin. I pulled up the house just as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky a bruised purple. My new home, well, new to me, was a two-story relic at the edge of town, all peeling paint and sagging shutters. The realtor had called it a fixer-upper with character. I called it cheap. After the divorce, cheap was all I could afford. The moving truck rumbled behind me, and I sighed, rubbing my neck. New town, new job, new start. That was the plan, anyway. The house loomed over the cracked driveway, its windows dark and empty like hollow eyes. I grabbed a box labeled kitchen from the truck and hauled it inside. The front door creaked as I pushed it open, a long, whining groan that echoed through the empty halls. The air smelled musty, like old books and damp wood. I flicked on the light switch, and a single bulb buzzed to life overhead, casting long shadows across the scuffed hardwood floor. Home sweet home, I muttered, setting the box on the counter. The kitchen was outdated, yellow linoleum, chipped cabinets, but functional. I'd make it work. I had to. The rest of the house wasn't much better. The living room had a stone fireplace that looked like it hadn't been used in decades, and the stairs to the second floor creaked under my weight like they might give out. Upstairs, there were 3 bedrooms and a bathroom with a clawfoot tub that was more rust than porcelain. I picked the smallest bedroom for myself, less space to feel alone in. By the time I'd unloaded half the truck, it was dark outside. The wind picked up, rattling the windows and their frames. I stopped to catch my breath, leaning against the banister, when I heard it, a faint thud from upstairs. I froze, listening. Nothing, just the house settling. I told myself, old places like this were full of noises. The next morning, I met my neighbor. I was hauling the last box inside when a woman waved from across the street. She was older, maybe 60, with gray hair pulled into a tight bun. She crossed over, her sneakers scuffing the pavement. "You're the new tenant," she said, not a question. "I'm Evelyn, live just over there. Nice to meet you. I'm Sam." I wiped sweat off my forehead and offered a tired smile. "Just getting settled." She nodded. "Eyeing the house? It's been empty a while. Hope you're handy. That place has quirks." Quirks. I raised an eyebrow, setting the box down. "Oh, creaks, drafts. Folks say it's got a mind of its own." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "Last tenant left in a hurry, middle of the night, screaming about footsteps. Said the house was cursed. But that's just talk. People love a good story." I laughed it off. Sound like he watched too many horror movies. "Maybe," Evelyn shrugged, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Just don't let it spook you." She shuffled back to her house, leaving me staring at mine. Footsteps? Curses? Ridiculous. I shook my head and went inside. The rest of the day was unpacking, setting up my bed, and figuring out the ancient thermostat. By nightfall, I was exhausted. I collapsed onto the mattress, the spring squeaking under me, and drifted off. That's when the noises started. It was subtle at first, a faint creak from the hallway, like someone shifting their weight on the floorboards. I opened my eyes, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark, save for a sliver of moonlight slipping through the curtains. Creak. There it was again. I sat up, heart thudding. Just the house, I thought. old with contracts at night. I'd read that somewhere. Then came the thud. Heavy, deliberate, like a boot hitting the floor. It came from downstairs. I held my breath, straining to hear. Silence. Then another thud, closer this time at the base of the stairs. My mouth went dry. I grabbed my phone, the screen glowing 2:47 a.m. No bars, great. The signal out here was spotty at best. Thud, thud. Up the stairs now, slow and steady. I swung my legs off the bed, my bare feet cold against the floor. I crept to the door and pressed my ear against it. Nothing. Maybe I'd imagined it. Stress, exhaustion. Divorce does that to you. I opened the door a crack, peering into the hall. Empty. Dark. The air felt colder out there, though sharp against my skin. I flipped on the hall light, half expecting to see someone standing there. Nothing. Just the stairs stretching down into shadow. I laughed, a shaky sound. Get a grip, Sam. I said aloud, my voice too loud in the quiet. I went back to bed, pulling the blanket tight. The noises stopped after that, and I convinced myself it was all in my head. But as I drifted off, I swore I heard something else, a low, raspy whisper, too faint to make out. It came from somewhere deep in the house, like a voice trapped in the walls. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I hadn't slept at all. My eyes were gritty, and my head ached like I'd spent the night clenching my jaw. The whisper I'd heard, or thought I'd heard, lingered in my mind, but in the daylight, it felt ridiculous. Houses don't whisper. I chalked it up to a bad dream and dragged myself downstairs. The kitchen was cold, the kind of chill that seeps into your bones. I rubbed my hands together and started the coffee maker, an old drip machine I'd brought from the apartment. While it gurgled, I leaned against the counter and stared out the window. The backyard was a mess. Overgrown weeds, a rusted shed, and a gnarled oak tree that looked half dead. Evelyn's house sat across the street, curtains drawn. I wondered if she'd been serious about the last tenant. Screaming about footsteps? Sounded like a nutcase. Coffee in hand, I started my day. My new job, data entry at a small insurance office, didn't start until Monday, so I had the weekend to unpack and settle in. I hauled boxes, hung a few pictures, and swept the floors, trying to make the place feel like mine. The house fought me every step of the way. The floorboards groaned underfoot, loud enough to make me jump once or twice. A weird smell, like damp earth and something sour, wafted up from the basement when I opened the door to peek down. I shut it quick. That could wait. By afternoon, I was sweaty and sore, but the living room looked decent. I flopped onto the couch, a thrift store fine with faded plaid fabric, and scrolled my phone. Still no signal. I'd have to call the provider later. For now, I let the quiet sink in. Too quiet, maybe. The wind had died down, and the house felt still, like it was holding its breath. That night, I cooked spaghetti on the ancient stove, the burner hissing like it might explode. I ate at the wobbly kitchen table, the only sound the clink of my fork. Then I heard it again, a creak from upstairs. I paused mid-bite. Another creak, slower this time, like someone pacing. I set the fork down and stood, listening. The house was old, floorboards chipped. That's all it was. But then came the thud. Heavy, unmistakable, right above me. My stomach dropped. I grabbed a flashlight from the counter. My phone was useless, and crept to the stairs. The beam shook in my hand as I climbed, each step groaning under me. At the top, I swept the light down the hall. Empty. The bedroom doors were shut, just as I'd left them. I checked each one, heart pounding. Nothing. No one. Back downstairs, I laughed at myself. You're losing it, Sam. But the laugh sounded hollow. I finished dinner, washed the dishes, and headed to bed. The house stayed quiet, and I started to relax. Maybe it was just the stress of moving, the divorce still gnawing at me. I'd been on edge for months. Why would that stop now? Sleep came fast, but it didn't last. Around 3 a.m., I jolted awake, my breath caught in my throat. The room was freezing, my skin prickling with goosebumps. I fumbled for the blanket, pulling it up to my chin. That's when I heard it, a low, rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming on wood. It was coming from the wall behind my bed. I sat up, staring at the faded wallpaper. Tap, 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 slow and steady, like someone testing my nerve. I pressed my hand against the wall. Cold, solid. The tapping stopped. I waited, barely breathing. Nothing. Just my imagination, I told myself. But when I lay back down, the air felt heavier, like something was pressing against it. The next day, I kept busy. I went into town, grabbed groceries, and stopped at a hardware store for light bulbs and a broom. The cashier, a guy with a scruffy beard, asked where I was living. When I told him the address, his eyebrows shot up. That old place on Miller Road? Huh, good luck. What's that supposed to mean? I asked, handing over my cash. He shrugged, bagging my stuff. Just heard stories. People say it's weird out there. Last guy who lived there didn't stick around long. Evelyn mentioned that. I said, trying to sound casual. Something about footsteps. Yeah, and other stuff. Shadows, noises. Probably just rumors. He grinned, but it didn't look genuine. You'll be fine. I nodded and left, the bag swinging against my leg as I walked to my car. Rumors. That's all it was. Small towns love their ghost stories. Still, the drive back felt longer, the house looking darker against a gray sky when I pulled up. That night, I couldn't shake the unease. I sat on the couch, a beer in hand, listening to the house creak and groan. The tapping didn't come back, but something else did, a faint scrape like nails dragging across wood from somewhere downstairs. I set the beer down and grabbed the flashlight again. The basement door was still shut, but the sound seemed to come from there. I stood in front of it, hand on the knob. The air coming to crack was cold, carrying that sour, earthy smell. The scraping stopped. I opened the door, shining the light down the rickety stairs. Dust floated in the beam, but the basement was too dark to see much. I took one step down, then froze. Something moved, a shadow, quick and low, darting out of sight. Hello? My voice cracked. No answer. Just the house, breathing around me. I stood there, flashlight trembling in my hand, staring into the basement's black maw. The shadow, if it was a shadow, didn't move again. My breath puffed out in little clouds. The air so cold it stung my lungs. I took another step down, the stair creaking loud enough to make me wince. The scraping didn't come back, but the silence felt worse, heavy and watchful. Who's there? I called, my voice bouncing off the damp walls. Nothing, just a faint drip of water somewhere below. I swept the light around. Bare concrete cobwebs, a stack of rotted boxes in the corner. No sign of whatever I'd seen. Probably a rat, I told myself. Old houses have rats. That's normal. But my legs wouldn't move. The cold wrapped around me, seeping through my hoodie, and I swear the darkness shifted, like it was breathing. I backed up fast, slamming the door behind me. The knob rattled in my grip, and I stood there, panting, waiting for something to bang against it. It didn't. The house went quiet again, mocking me. I locked the basement door with the rusty bolt and shoved a chair under the knob for good measure. Stupid. I muttered, rubbing my arms. I wasn't sleeping tonight. Not after that. I grabbed my beer from the living room and chugged it. The bitter taste grounding me. Rats. Shadows. That's all it was. Morning came slow, gray light creeping through curtains. I dozed on the couch, the empty bottle still in my hand. My neck ached, but I felt better. Daylight has a way of making things less scary. I made coffee, ignoring the basement door as I passed it. Today was about normal stuff, groceries, a trip to the library for Wi-Fi, anything to get out of the house. The library was a squat brick building downtown, smelling of old paper and dust. I set up my laptop at a table near the window and finally got a signal. Emails, job stuff, a text from my ex about the last of the divorce papers. I replied quick, then started searching. Miller Road house history. Why not? Evelyn and the hardware guy had me curious. Most of it was boring. Property records, tack stuff. The house was built in 1892 by a guy named Amos Carver. Owned it until 1920. Then it passed through a few families. Nothing weird until a blog post popped up, some local history nuts page. The Carver House, a tale of madness, it read. I clicked. Amos Carver, it said, was a recluse. Rich, eccentric, obsessed with the occult. Rumors swirled he'd held rituals in the house, trying to contact the dead or worse. Neighbors complained of strange lights, chants drifting through the night. Then, in 1920, he vanished. No body, no note, just gone. The house sat empty for years after, tenants coming and going, none staying long. The post ended with a blurry photo of the place. Caption, some say Carver's still there in a way. I leaned back, frowning. Occult stuff? Sounded like nonsense, the kind of story people make up to scare kids. But the vanishing part stuck with me. And the tenants. I closed the laptop, suddenly aware the library's quiet. Too quiet like the house. Back home, I couldn't shake it. The day passed normal enough, unpacking, sweeping, avoiding the basement. But the air felt off, colder than it should have been. I checked the thermostat, 68 degrees. Fine. So why did my breath fog when I exhaled in the hall? That night, I stayed up late, watching TV on my laptop with the volume low. The house creaked around me, the usual groans and pops. I ignored them, focusing on some dumb sitcom. Then the power flickered. The screen went black, and the room plunged into shadow. I cursed, fumbling for my flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, catching the fireplace, the stairs, Something moved. Upstairs, a heavy thud, then footsteps. Slow, deliberate, pacing the hall above. My heart slammed against my ribs. I stood, flashlight shaking, and crept to the stairs. The footsteps stopped. I waited, straining to hear. A low creak, then another thud, closer now at the top of the stairs. I swung the light up. Nothing, just the empty landing. The hall stretching into darkness. But the cold hit me hard, a wave of icy air rolling down like someone had opened a freezer. I backed up, my heel hitting the couch. The footsteps started again, faster, thudding down the stairs. I bolted for the kitchen, slamming the door behind me. The footsteps stopped, but I heard something else, a low, raspy sound, like someone breathing through a clogged throat. It came from the other side of the door. I gripped the flashlight like a club, staring at the knob. It didn't turn. The breathing faded, and the house went still. When the power flicked back on, I was still in the kitchen, sweating despite the cold. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the table, flashlight on, listening to the house settle, or whatever it was doing. The footsteps didn't come back, but I couldn't shake the feeling something was waiting just out of sight. I didn't leave the kitchen until sunrise. The light streaming through the window felt like a lifeline, chasing away the shadows and that awful raspy breathing. My hands were still shaky as I made coffee, the pot rattling against counter. I kept glancing at the door, half expecting it to swing open on its own. It didn't. The house was quiet again, pretending to be normal. I couldn't pretend, though. Not after last night. The footsteps, the cold, that sound. It wasn't rats or my imagination. Something was wrong with this place. I downed my coffee, scalded my throat, and decided to get answers. Evelyn knew more than she'd let on, and I wasn't waiting for another night of this. I crossed the street and knocked on her door. She answered quick, like she'd been expecting me, her bun tighter than yesterday. "Sam," she said, peering at me, "you look awful." "Didn't sleep," I admitted, shoving my hands in my pockets. "Can I ask you something? About the house?" She sighed, stepping aside. "Come in. Tea." I nodded, following her into a living room stuffed with floral cushions and old photos. She busied herself in the kitchen, and I sat, fidgeting. The normalcy of her place made me feel ridiculous, but I couldn't shake the memory of those footsteps. She handed me a steaming mug and sat across from me. "What's going on?" "The house?" I said, staring at the tea. "Last night, I heard things. Footsteps. Breathing. It's not just creaks, Evelyn." She didn't laugh or call me crazy. Her lips pressed into a thin line. I was afraid of that. Afraid of what? I leaned forward. You said the last tenant freaked out about footsteps. What else do you know? She hesitated, then got up and grabbed a shoebox from a shelf. I don't like talking about it. Makes me sound like one of those superstitious old bats. But here, she slid the box toward me. Found this in my garage years ago. Left behind by someone who lived there. I opened it. Inside was a small leather-bound journal, its cover cracked and stained. The pages were yellowed, some stuck together with damp. What is it? Belonged to Amos Carver, she said. The man who built the house. I only skimmed it, gave me the creeps. But if you're hearing things, maybe it's worth a look. I stared at her. Amos Carver? The coke guy. You've heard. She raised an eyebrow. Yeah, people said he was unhinged, messing with stuff he shouldn't have after he disappeared. Folks swore the house changed. I never believed it till the tenants started leaving. I took the journal, my fingers brushing the rough leather. Thanks. I'll check it out. Be careful, Sam, she said as I stood. That place, it's got a way of getting under your skin. Back home, I sat at the kitchen table, the journal in front of me. The house was still, but the air felt thick like it was listening. I opened the cover. The handwriting was spidery, ink faded but legible. The first entry was dated October 12, 1918. Asterisk, the rituals are working. The veil thins. I hear them now, the voices from beyond. They whisper my name, promising secrets. The house is alive with it. Asterisk, my stomach twisted. I flipped ahead. More entries, wilder each time. Asterisk, November 3rd, 1918. The basement is the key. I've carved the sigils into the stone. The air shifts down there, cold and heavy. They're close. Asterisk, asterisk, December 19th, 1918. I saw it tonight. A shape in the dark. Tall, thin, moving like smoke. It knows I'm here. I've opened something, and I can't close it. Asterisk, I slammed the journal shut, my pulse racing. Sigils? Voices? This was insane. But the cold, the footsteps, it matched too well. I glanced at the basement door. The chair was still wedged under the knob, untouched. I wasn't going down there. Not yet. That night, I tried to sleep, the journal on my nightstand. The house stayed quiet for hours, lulling me into a doze. Then it started, a faint tapping, same as before from the wall. I ignored it, pulling the blanket over my head. It got louder, faster, until it was a frantic drumbeat. I sat up yelling, "Stop it!" It did. Dead silence. Then a new sound, slow, heavy footsteps, circling my room from a hall. I grabbed a flashlight and aimed it at the door. The knob didn't turn, but the footsteps kept going round and round, like something pacing outside. The air turned frigid, my teeth chattering. I didn't move, didn't breathe, until the sun came up. The footsteps faded with the dark, leaving me staring at the journal. Whatever Carver had done, it was still here, and it knew I was too. I didn't touch the journal all day. It sat on the nightstand, taunting me, while I tried to act normal. I vacuumed the living room, scrubbed the kitchen sink, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind off Carver's words. But the house wouldn't let me forget. The air stayed cold, even with the thermostat cranked up, and every creak sounded deliberate, like a foot testing the floor. By noon, I couldn't take it. I grabbed the journal and flipped to where I'd left off. Carver's entries grew messier. The ink smudged like he'd been frantic. Asterisk, January 15th, 1919. The shape comes every night now. It stands at the foot of my bed, watching. I feel its hunger. The sigils draw closer. I've bound it to the house. Asterisk, asterisk, February 2nd, 1919. The whispers are louder, a chorus in the walls. They beg me to join them. I've made a mistake. The door I open won't shut. Asterisk, the last entry was dated March 10th, 1920. Just one line. Asterisk, it's in the basement. It waits. Asterisk, I dropped the journal, my hands clammy. The basement. Of course it was the damn basement. That shadow I'd seen, the cold, it wasn't a rat. Carver had done something down there, something that stuck around long after he vanished. I paced the bedroom, glancing at the stairs. I didn't want to go down there, but I had to know. I grabbed a hammer from my toolbox. Not much of a weapon, but it felt solid, and headed to the kitchen. The chair was still under the basement knob. The bolt locked. I took a deep breath, slid the chair aside, and unlatched the door. The hinges screamed as I pulled it open, the sour, earthy smell hitting me like a wave. I clicked on the flashlight and started down. The stairs groaned, each step a warning. At the bottom, the air was thick, damp, and so cold my fingers ached around the hammer. The beam caught the concrete walls, streaked with mildew. Then I saw them, carved into the stone, just like Carver wrote. Sigils, jagged, swirling shapes, etched deep, some stained dark like old blood. They covered the far wall, a chaotic pattern that made my eyes hurt to look at. I stepped closer, the flashlight shaking. The air buzzed, a low hum I felt in my chest. The sigils seemed to shift, like they were moving under the light. I reached out, stupidly, and brushed one with my fingertips. It was ice cold, and the hum spiked, a jolt running up my arm. I yanked my hand back, stumbling over a box. That's when I heard it, a low, guttural rasp, like air dragged through a broken pipe. It came from the corner, where the shadows were thickest. I swung the light over, and there it was, a shape, tall and thin, flickering like a bad signal. It didn't have a face, just a void where one should have been, but I felt it staring. I ran. The stairs buckled under me, and I scrambled up, slamming the door so hard the frame rattled. I bolted it, shoved the chair back, and leaned against the counter, panting. The rasp faded, but the cold didn't. It followed me, seeping through the floor. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room, hammer in my lap, listening. The footsteps came back, heavier now, pacing the hall above. Then the tapping started, a frantic rhythm from every wall, like something clawing to get out. I yelled at it to stop, my voice hoarse, but it only got louder. Around 3 a.m., the power cut out again. The room went black, and the air turned arctic. I clicked the flashlight on, sweeping around. The beam caught the stairs, and there it was, the shape from the basement, standing halfway up, its head tilted like it was listening. The light flickered, and it moved, fast, vanishing into the dark. I grabbed the journal and my keys, ready to bolt, but the front door wouldn't budge. I yanked the knob, pounded the wood. Nothing. The windows wouldn't open either. The latches frozen. The tapping turned to banging, a deafening roar from every direction. I sank to the floor, clutching the hammer, and waited for dawn. When the sun rose, the noise stopped. The door opened like it had never been stuck. I stumbled outside, gulping fresh air, the journal still in my hand. The house sat there, quiet and smug, like it knew I'd be back. I didn't go back inside right away. I sat on the front steps, the journal digging into my thigh, watching the sun climb higher. The air out here was warm, normal, nothing like the icy grip of the house. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, and my head buzzed with Carver's words. Asterisk, it waits. Asterisk, whatever he called up was still down there, and it wasn't letting me go. I flipped through the journal again, looking for anything that might explain how to stop it. Most of it was ramblings, sketches of sigils, chants in some gibberish language, rants about the other side. One page caught my eye, though, dated February 28, 1919. Asterisk, the entity demands a vessel. Blood ties it to the house, but it craves more. I've locked it below, but the sigils weaken. If it escapes, it will take what it needs. Asterisk, a vessel, blood. My stomach churned. Was that why it was after me? I wasn't staying to find out. I stood, ready to grab my stuff and leave, but the house loomed behind me, its shadow stretching too long across the yard. I couldn't shake the feeling it was watching. Evelyn's porch light was on. I crossed the street and banged on her door, louder than I meant to. She opened it, frowning. "Sam, you look like death." "I need help," I said, shoving the journal at her. I went to the basement. "There's something down there," something Carver left. It's real, Evelyn. She took the journal, her face paling as she skimmed it. Lord, I thought it was just stories. It's not. It's in the house. I saw it. My voice cracked. What do I do? She handed it back, shaking her head. I don't know. Burn the place down, maybe, but you can't stay there. I tried leaving. The door wouldn't open till morning. I rubbed my face, exhausted. It's like it won't let me. She stared at me, then grabbed her coat. Come on, we're going to the library. There's a woman there, Mrs. Hale. She knows the town's history. Might know something about Carver. We drove in silence, the house shrinking in the rear-view mirror. The library was empty except for Mrs. Hale, a wiry woman with sharp eyes behind thick glasses. Evelyn explained, and I showed her the journal. She read it slow, her fingers tracing the sigils. Amos Carver, she said finally, he was a fool. Thought he could control things he didn't understand. These sigils, they're older than him, meant to summon and bind, but they erode over time. So it's loose? I asked, my throat dry. Maybe, or close to it. She tapped the page. He mentions blood. That's the anchor. If you break it, you might break the binding. How? She shrugged. Destroy the sigils. Salt the ground. Blood's tricky could mean his or someone else's now. I thanked her, my mind spinning. Back home, I grabbed salt from the kitchen and a crowbar from the shed. The house was quiet when I stepped inside, but the air felt wrong, heavy with that sour smell. I headed straight for the basement, crowbar in one hand, salt in the other. The sigils glowed faintly in the flashlight's beam, pulsing like they were alive. I swung the crowbar, chipping at the stone. Sparks flew, and the air hummed louder, a vibration that rattled my teeth. I kept going, salt spilling as I hacked at the carvings. The rasp came back, sharp and angry, from the shadows. I turned, and there it was, taller now, its edges sharper, the void face sucking in the light. It moved, gliding toward me, and the cold hit like a punch. I threw the salt, a handful scattering across the floor. It hissed, recoiling, and I swung the crowbar again, cracking a sigil in half. The house shook, a low groan echoing through the walls. The thing lunged, and I stumbled back, tripping over the stairs. Its hand, or whatever it was, brushed my leg, ice cold and slick like wet smoke. I scrambled up, slamming the door, and ran. Upstairs, the banging started again, louder, from every wall, every floor. The lights flickered, and the shape appeared at the stairs, climbing slow. I grabbed the journal and bolted the front door. This time it opened, and I fell onto the porch, gasping. The banging stopped. I looked back. The house was dark, silent. But I knew it wasn't over. I didn't stop running until I hit Evelyn's porch. My lungs burned, and the crowbar clattered to the ground as I pounded on her door. She yanked it open, eyes wide. Sam, what happened? It's awake. I gasped, clutching the journal. I hit the sigils through salt. It's pissed now. She pulled me inside, locking the door like that had helped. You went down there alone? Are you crazy? Had to try something. I sank onto her couch, my leg throbbing where the thing had touched me. It felt numb, like frostbite creeping up my calf. Mrs. Hale said break the sigils, use salt. It worked for a second, but it's stronger now. She grabbed the journal, flipping to the blood entry. This anchor, it's still tied to something. Carver's blood, maybe, or yours if it's latched onto you. Mine. I stared at her. How? You're living there. It's had time to, I don't know, mark you. She looked pale. We need to end this. Tonight. I nodded, too tired to argue. We gathered what we could. More salt, a gaskin from her garage, matches. Burning the house felt extreme, but I was done playing ghost hunter. We crossed the street as dusk fell, the house squatting in the gloom, like it knew we were coming. Inside, the air was thick, the sour smell choking. The lights wouldn't turn on, so we used flashlights, beams cutting through the dark. The floorboards creaked under us, louder than before, like the house was flexing. We headed for the basement, Salt bags ready. The door was ajar. I hadn't left it that way. Evelyn gripped my arm, but I shook her off and stepped down, the stairs sagging. The sigils were cracked where I'd hit them, but the glow was back, brighter, pulsing red. The rasp filled the air, a wet, grinding sound that made my skin crawl. Pour the gas, I said, voice shaking. Evelyn splashed it over the walls, the fumes stinging my eyes. I scattered salt, a thick line across the floor. The rasp turned to a growl, and the shape emerged, taller, sharper, its void face splitting into a jagged maw. It moved fast, slamming into the salt line. The grains hissed, smoking, and it reared back. Light it, Evelyn yelled. I fumbled the matches, striking one. The flame flared and I tossed it. Fire roared up, licking the sigils. The house screamed, a deep, shuddering groan, and the thing lunged again, breaking through the salt. Its hand grazed my chest, cold searing through my shirt, and I fell, the crowbar skittering away. Evelyn grabbed me, dragging me up the stairs as the fire spread. The shape followed, slow now, its edges fraying in the heat. We stumbled into the kitchen, smoke billowing behind us. The front door was locked again, the knob ice cold. I kicked it, desperate, and it burst open, spilling us onto the lawn. The house burned, flames licking the windows. The shape stood in the doorway, flickering, then dissolved into the smoke. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone must have called it in. Evelyn and I sat there, coughing, watching the fire eat the place I called home. It's gone, she said, but I wasn't sure. My chest ached where it had touched me, a dull, cold pulse. The journal was still in my hand, singed but intact. I opened it to the last page. Carver's final line stared back. Asterisk, it waits. Asterisk, the fire trucks arrived, and we told them it was an accident. They didn't ask much, just hosed down the ruins. As we walked away, I heard it, a faint rasp carried on the wind, not from the house, from me. The fire left nothing but a blackened skeleton. By morning, the house was a pile of charred beams and ash, the basement a smoldering pit. I stood across the street with Evelyn, watching the last of the smoke curl into the sky. My chest still ached, a cold knot where that thing had touched me, and my leg felt stiff, like the numbness was spreading. I didn't tell her, didn't want to believe it myself. You okay? She asked, her voice rough in the smoke. Yeah, I lied, shoving my hands in my pockets. The journal was stuffed in my hoodie, its weight a constant reminder. Just glad it's over. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on the ruins. Hope so. The firefighters poked through the debris, shouting about faulty wiring. I didn't correct them. Better they think that than the truth. My stuff was gone, reduced to ash, but I didn't care. I'd lost more in the divorce. Evelyn offered me her couch, till I figured things out, and I took it. Anything to stay away from Miller Road. That day I tried to rest. Her living room was warm, cluttered with knickknacks, a stark contrast to the house's emptiness. I crashed on the couch, exhaustion pulling me under, but sleep didn't help. I dreamed of the basement, sigils glowing, the shape looming, its maw splitting wide. It whispered my name, a raspy hiss that jolted me awake. My shirt was soaked with sweat, the cold spot on my chest throbbing. I stumbled to the bathroom, splashing water on my face. In the mirror, I looked like hell, pale, eyes sunken. I pulled my collar down, and there it was, a faint grayish mark, like a burn but icy to the touch, right where it grabbed me. My breath hitched. It wasn't big, maybe the size of a quarter, but it pulsed, faint and steady, like a heartbeat not mine. I didn't tell Evelyn. She'd done enough. Instead, I grabbed the journal and sat at her kitchen table, flipping through it again. Carver's words blurred together. Rituals, blood vessels. But one line stuck out, scribbled in the margin. Asterisk, the mark binds it. It follows. Asterisk. My stomach dropped. I pressed the mark, wincing as the cold spiked. The rasp came then, soft and distant, not from the room but inside me, echoing in my skull. I dropped the journal, hands shaking. The fire hadn't killed it. It had latched onto me instead. I spent the day pacing, jumping at every creak in Evelyn's house. She noticed, asked if I was okay. I mumbled about stress and changed the subject. Night came too fast. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling, the mark of constant ache. Around midnight, it started, the tapping, faint but unmistakable from the walls. Not her walls. Mine, like it was still in me, clawing at the edges. I sat up, flashlight in hand. The room was still, but the air felt heavy, the temperature dropping. The rasp grew louder, a wet gurgle in my ears. I stumbled to the window, peering out. The street was empty, the ruins dark across the way. Then I saw it, a flicker in the shadows, tall and thin, standing where the house had been. It didn't move, just watched, its void face fixed on me. I backed away, heart pounding. The tapping turned to footsteps, slow and heavy, circling me, not the room, but me. I grabbed the journal, flipping to the blood page. Asterisk, the anchor ties it. Asterisk if it was me now. How did I break it? Salt hadn't worked. Fire hadn't. Blood might. Evelyn found me in the kitchen, clutching a knife. Sam, what the hell? It's not gone, I said, voice trembling. It's in me. She stared, then grabbed the phone. We're calling Mrs. Hale. Now. Evelyn dialed Mrs. Hale while I stood there, knife in one hand, journal in the other. The mark on my chest burned cold, a steady pulse that matched the rasp in my head. It wasn't loud, not yet, but it was constant, like a second breath I couldn't shake. The kitchen felt too small, the walls pressing in, even though this wasn't my house anymore. She's not picking up, Evelyn said, slamming the phone down. It's late, maybe she's asleep. We can't wait, I said, my voice tight. It's getting worse. I hear it. I feel it. She looked at me, then at the knife, her face paling. Put that down, Sam. You're scaring me. I set it on the counter, hands trembling. I'm not crazy. Look. I yanked my shirt down, showing her the mark. It was darker now, a grayish bruise within, spidery lines creeping outward like veins. She gasped, stepping back. Jesus, she whispered. That's not normal. No kidding. I rubbed it, wincing as the cold spiked. Carver said the mark binds it. It's not in the house anymore. It's in me. She grabbed the journal, flipping through it fast. There's got to be something, some way to undo it. I paced, the footsteps echoing in my skull, slow and deliberate. The rasp turned to a whisper, faint words I couldn't make out, slithering through my thoughts. I pressed my hands to my ears, but it didn't help. It was inside, not out. We need Hale. She knew about the sigils. She'll know this. Evelyn nodded, grabbing her keys. We'll drive over. She lives above the library. The night was thick, fog rolling in as we sped through town. The mark throbbed, each beat sending a chill down my spine. I kept glancing out the window, half expecting that shape to loom up in the mist. It didn't, but the whispers grew sharper, a hissing chant that made my head ache. Mrs. Hale's place was dark. When we pulled up, Evelyn banged on the door, calling her name. No answer. I tried the knob. It turned, unlocked. We stepped inside, the air stale and heavy. Mrs. Hale? I called, my voice bouncing off the walls. A faint thud came from upstairs. We climbed the narrow steps, Evelyn's flashlight shaking in her grip. The hall was lined with bookshelves, shadows twisting in the beam. Another thud, louder, from a room at the end. I pushed the door open, and there she was, sprawled on the floor, glasses cracked beside her, a book clutched in her hand. She's breathing, Evelyn said, kneeling. Help me get her up. We lifted her onto a chair. Her eyes fluttered open, dazed. Who, Sam? It's me, I said, leaning close. The thing from the house. It's in me now. The mark. How do I stop it? She blinked, focusing slow. The mark. Carver's anchor. It's claimed you. She coughed, pointing to the book. There. Old rights. Blood breaks it. I grabbed it. An ancient thing, leather crumbling, titled The Occultist. The page was marked, scribbled in Latin. Hale translated, her voice weak. Salt and fire weaken it. Blood releases it. Yours. Now, not his. Spill it where it's bound. The basement's gone, I said. The house burned. She shook her head. It's not the place anymore. It's you. The mark's the anchor. The whispers surged, a scream in my skull. I stumbled back, clutching my chest. The footsteps pounded, a drumbeat inside me. How much blood? I yelled over the noise only I could hear. Enough to satisfy it, she said. Or it takes all of you. Evelyn grabbed my arm. We're not doing this here. Back to my place, salt, a plan. We half carried Hale to the car, her breathing ragged. The fog thickened as we drove. The whispers turned to laughter, low and wet. The mark pulsed faster, the cold spreading. I wasn't sure I'd make it to morning. We got back to Evelyn just past 2 a.m. The fog so thick I could barely see her house in the car. Mrs. Hale leaned on me as we stumbled inside, her breath shallow. The mark on my chest was a searing cold now, the spidery line stretching toward my shoulder. The whispers had turned to a constant hiss. Words I couldn't catch but felt, like nails on glass inside my skull. Evelyn set Hale at the kitchen table and dumped salt in a circle around us. "This'll hold it, right?" she asked, voice shaking. Hale nodded weakly. "For a bit. Hurry." I grabbed the knife from earlier, its blade glinting under the fluorescent light. The book lay open, Hale's shaky finger on the page. "Blood over salt," she rasped. "Speak the words. It'll draw it out." "What words?" I asked, gripping the knife tighter. She recited them, a guttural string of syllables I barely followed. I repeated them, stumbling over the sounds, my tongue clumsy. The air thickened, the temperature plunging. The footsteps in my head sped up a frantic march, and the mark burned, a freezing fire under my skin. "Do it," Evelyn said, pouring more salt around me. "Now, Sam." I pressed the knife to my palm, hesitating. The rasp spiked, a wet roar that made my ears ring. I sliced, quick and deep, blood welling up fast. It hit the salt, sizzling, and I choked out the words again. The floor shook, a low rumble vibrating through my boots. The lights flickered and the shadows stretched, twisting into shapes that shouldn't exist. "It's working," Hale whispered, clutching the book. The mark pulsed harder, and I felt it, a tug, like something clawing its way out of me. The air split, a crackling tear, and there it was, the shape tall and thin, its void face gaping. It hovered over the salt circle, swaying, its edges fraying like smoke. The cold hit me full force, my breath fogging, my teeth chattering. "Keep going," Evelyn yelled, tossing salt at it. It hissed, recoiling, but didn't vanish. My blood dripped faster, pooling on the floor, and I shouted the words louder, my voice raw. The shape lunged, slamming against the salt barrier. The grain smoked, holding it back, but the circle cracked, salt scattering. More blood. Hale cried. I slashed my other palm, wincing as the pain doubled. Blood splattered, and the shape shrieked, a sound like metal grinding, piercing my skull. The mark flared, then dulled, the cold easing for a split second. The thing thrashed, its form shrinking, pulled toward the blood-soaked salt. Then the lights went out. The room plunged into black, and the footsteps stopped. I fumbled for the flashlight, clicking it on. The beam caught Evelyn wide-eyed, and Hale slumped in her chair. The shape was gone. The salt circle was a mess, blood and ash smeared across it. The air warmed, the hiss fading from my head. "Is it over?" I asked, my voice a croak. Hale nodded, exhausted. "It's loose. Not bound, but it's not in you." I sank to the floor, hands bleeding, the knife clattering beside me. The mark was still there, faint now, just a gray scar. I waited, listening. No footsteps, no whispers. Just silence, real silence, for the first time in days. Evelyn helped me up, wrapping my hands in a towel. "You're done with that thing," she said, firm. "We all are." I wanted to believe her, but as I glanced out the window, the fog shifted, and I swore I saw it. A flicker, tall and thin, vanishing into the night. I didn't stay in that apartment long. 2 days after that tap on the wall, I packed my bags, clothes, the lamp, a few bucks from the insurance, and left. The journal came with me, shoved in a duffel I couldn't bring myself to open. I told the landlord it was a job thing, a sudden transfer. He didn't care, just took my deposit and waved me off. Evelyn called as I loaded the car. "You're running?" she asked, her voice sharp through the phone. "Not running," I said, slamming the trunk. "Moving on. Big difference." "Sam, you can't keep doing this. It's over. You beat it." I touched the mark through my shirt. Still there, faint and gray, silent for now. "Yeah, maybe." I didn't tell her about the taps, the word in the journal. She'd worry, and I was tired of dragging her into my mess. "Where you going?" she pressed. "North. New town, new start. I'll call when I settle." I hung up before she could argue, got in the car, and drove. The apartment shrank in the rear view, the ruins of the house long gone. The road stretched out, empty and gray, and I cranked the radio to drown the quiet. I found a motel that night, a cheap place off the highway with peeling paint and a buzzing neon sign. The clerk barely looked at me, just slid a key across the counter. Room 12. Ironic, I thought, dragging my bag inside. It smelled of mildew and stale smoke, but it was warm, normal. I dropped onto the bed, the springs creaking, and stared at the ceiling. No taps, no footsteps, just the hum of the heater. Sleep came fast, but it didn't stay. I woke in the dark, the clock glowing 3:04 a.m. The room was cold, too cold. My breath fogged, faint wisps in the dim light. I sat up, heart thudding, and listened. Nothing. Then it came, a single, slow tap from the wall by the window. I froze, staring at the curtains. They didn't move, but the tap came again, deliberate, closer. I grabbed the duffel, fumbling for the journal. The pencil word, asterisk, anywhere, asterisk. Stare back, mocking me. The mark twitched, a faint chill stirring under my skin. I bolted up, yanking the curtains open. The parking lot was empty, the highway beyond it a black ribbon. No shape, no flicker. Just night. The tap stopped. I stood there, shaking, until dawn crept in, washing the room in gray. I checked out fast, tossing the key on the counter, and hit the road again. Town after town, motel after motel, I kept moving. Days turned to weeks. The mark quiet, but always there, a scar I couldn't shake. One night, in a nowhere diner, I sat with coffee and a journal, flipping through it one last time. Carver's words blurred together. But that final note, asterisk, it waits. Anywhere, asterisk, burned into me. I paid the bill, left the journal on the table, and walked out. Someone else could deal with it. I drove on, the radio crackling, the mark cold against my chest. The road stretched endless, and I told myself I was free. But as the miles ticked by, I heard it, a faint rasp, soft as a whisper, rising from the hum of the engine. I turned the volume up, drowning it out, and kept my eyes ahead. Behind me, the dark watched.